In it here now, what are you gonna do now? I'm gonna bid on here now. Who bid $500,000 bid?
Welcome to the Legacy of Agriculture. This program will explore the past, present, and future of agriculture. We'll look at the people, products, and events that have formed its history. And now with today's guest, your host, Chris Bear.
Good Saturday morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Chris Bear with the Legacy of Agriculture. We welcome you to our show again. We are several shows in, and I have a very good friend of mine that is with me here today. Mr. Kevin Pifer is my guest today. We're broadcasting from Fargo, North Dakota, from our Moorhead office, those of you that are familiar with the Fargo-Moorhead area. And Pifer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management has been our sponsor for our show, and we greatly appreciate that. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thanks for having me on, Chris. Appreciate you letting me join you today.
It's great to be up here in God's country is what I call it. This Red River Valley is absolutely beautiful this time of year. We're right around the corner from harvest.
It's, this time of the year in the Red River Valley, well, mostly throughout the region is pretty cool because the soybeans look really good, obviously, and they're a slow starter. But when we start getting into mid to late July, the soybean crop looks absolutely amazing. This year, the corn crop on the 4th of July, it wasn't knee high, it was probably 5 feet high, 6 feet high.
Right.
So again, we've been blessed with some really timely and frequent rains, which is good. Not all of North Dakota and Minnesota have been benefiting from that, but I'd say for the most part, the big cash crop here is sugar beets. Obviously, they look really incredible throughout the entire valley. So again, it's a great time to be here in North Dakota and Minnesota. We sit right on the border, obviously, but the crops are amazing. We're scheduled to have 90-degree weather now for the balance of the next couple of weeks. So these crops are really going to be really maturing here quickly here in the next couple of weeks.
That's absolutely wonderful. Not only do you own Pifer Auction, Realty, and Land Management and is the sponsor of the Legacy of Agriculture, but you also have a radio show up in Fargo called America's Land Auctioneer. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, again, I was inspired by my youngest daughter, who is the American Wine Girl. She has her own Instagram and Facebook page, and she's an influencer. And she said, Dad, you've been doing this almost 25 years. You should put together a podcast and a radio show. So she was the inspiration behind doing that. So I decided to take that on. It's an educational program. It's meant to educate people with a lot of things having to do with land, and maybe perhaps even a little bit further than that with estate planning. And how do you buy farmland? What type of farmland should you buy, depending on what type of a buyer you are, whether you're an investor or a farmer or whatever. But again, the program is mostly designed to educate people on current events, but everything having to do with land. So again, it's a weekly program that starts out as a radio show, but then as that week unfolds, it gets transferred over into a podcast in either Apple or Spotify. So there's a library of different topics that you can go and listen to. So we're at like number 127. We've never gone 2 weeks in a row without a new show. So we always have new footage and new data, new material for everybody. So it's a new narrative every week. So we think it's a really good show in that regard, that it is educational based, which our company is, Chris. And you well know, you speak at seminars on behalf of Pifers to educate the buyers and sellers. So the hallmark of our company has always been education, and we want to continue that.
Absolutely. Well, I have to tell you an interesting story about your radio show. When I first came to work, my real job is working for Pifers, and Legacy of Agriculture had an interesting birth because I had a customer that called and said, "Hey, I got a couple of combines I want to sell with Pifers. Will you come drive one in for me?" And so late in the evening, I was driving a combine in, and I was reminiscing in my mind about, Kevin, we meet so many people, and they have amazing stories to be told. It's absolutely wonderful. The I don't even know how to describe it. The objections and the struggles that people overcome, and they float to the top, and they become unbelievably successful in agriculture. I thought, in 30 plus years of wearing out pickups and traveling and doing auctions in 17 different states in my career, there's so many stories that need to be told. So I was sitting in the seat of this combine, and I thought, I wonder if WNX would be interested in listening or hosting a show. So almost 2 years ago, it was born in my mind, but we were super busy. I didn't have time to feel like I could dedicate to it until, and over the last several months, we've been able to launch this show. But you beat me to the punch, and I was afraid to ask permission to see if Pifer's would sponsor the show. And when you started your show, I sat back for a year and a half, and I thought, I'm going to sit and listen to Kevin's shows that he does. And every time I listen to your show, I absolutely love it. I've learned more about real estate and land by listening to your show and following the Pifer's organization, which are truly national leaders. You guys are ranked, I think, land management ranked in the top 5 land auction.
I would say our land management company is probably privately owned. It's probably in the top 10 in America. There's a lot of publicly traded companies that manage land too, but the thing of it is, our team does a phenomenal job. As you well know,
Wow.
they manage 250,000 acres. So 250,000 acres of land in a 7-8 state area. They're very good at what they do. They're very passionate about it. They're very dedicated and committed to making sure the situation they're involved in for the landowner and the tenant's a win-win. So they do an incredible job. Their reputation is second to none in our region. They're very, very, very well respected and highly sought after to manage farmland.
Wonderful. Well, you've got licensed realtors and auctioneers in Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, soon to be Iowa. How many? Nebraska.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Arizona,
soon to be Iowa and Wyoming. And so you've got a phenomenal footprint here in the upper Midwest. And all I could say is I've had the opportunity to work for other auction companies. And it's just an absolute pleasure to work with Pifer's and your organization. We were talking earlier this morning about the tremendous employees. And I don't like to call them employees. They're coworkers. They're team members. Yeah. Yeah, and a phenomenal team. Steve Link is your company real estate broker. He's easy to talk to, and Dwight is a great land manager. I just can't say enough good about the Pifer's organization.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, you talked a little bit about our footprint. Basically, we're all the way from Bozeman, Montana to Madison, Wisconsin, and down in the Sioux Falls area where you run the operation, and down into Nebraska and other places. But it's. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, a lot of people grow up and they dream personally about having the home with a little white picket fence around it and being successful. And I said, really that's kind of maybe a good dream to have, but I think more importantly, it's not the white picket fence and what it surrounds. It's what's within the picket fence that matters. And, with Pifer's, our organization is not necessarily about the footprint. Obviously, you need the footprint to establish where you're going to be, but within that footprint, it's what happens within it and who the people are that represent you every day. And like you said about all the people you have an opportunity to meet, every buyer and seller has a story that's worthy of being told at some point in their life. And maybe it's a multiple of stories to tell. So again, we meet with some of the best people in the world by far. So I think if you can humanize this industry or this profession, a lot of people try and monetize it. That'll come later. If you can humanize it, that's the best approach, I think.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. We're going to go to a break here in just a few seconds, Kevin. Again, this is The Legacy of Agriculture with Chris Bear. I'm up here in Moorhead, Minnesota, the Fargo-Moorhead area, recording with Kevin. Our sponsor, Pifer Auction Realty and Land Management. We appreciate the good people at Pifer's. And if you want a complete listing of all of our auctions and information about Pifer's, go to pifers.com. That's PIFERS.com, or email us at info@pifers.com, or call us 605-836-2277. Nobody does it better. Hey folks, we're back here. It's The Legacy of Agriculture with Chris Bear on WNX Radio. And my guest, Kevin Pifer, is here with us. And I want to start out this segment by saying, Kevin, you say at the end of every one of your radio shows, nobody does it better. And in our first segment, we talked a little bit about Pifers. We talked about America's Land Auctioneer and that radio show. Nobody does it better. Tell me about that. I love that. It's a great catchphrase.
Yeah, well, what I mean by that, it means a lot. I mean, it may just sound like a few words, but what I really mean by that is we have not only talented people with enormous skill sets, but they do it with passion. And whenever you can incorporate and mix that blend of talent with passion, and like I said earlier, the hallmark of our company is education. But whenever you can put those two things together, nobody does it better. Nobody does it better than somebody that has the skill set and the experience and the passion. And our team does. And that's what I love about our team every day. I mean, they're so excited whether they've been here 1 year or 25 years. I was recently on a fishing trip with Dwight Hofflin, our farmland manager. And when he still talks about building the land management portfolio and all of his clients, it's just like he's a little kid. He enjoys every bit of it, every single day of it. Jim Sabby, who was with us on our fishing trip too, he's been with us, one of the longest tenured people we have. He can't wait to get out and set up another equipment sale. I mean, that's how these people feel about it. And they're excited about it. They love it. The industry lends itself to people who have a tendency to get bored because every day in this business, it's different. There are no 2 days alike ever. But it's really a very gratifying business because you can really change people's lives in this business. And I think that's what our people really love about it.
Yeah. You know, we had I'll tell you how well the Pifer's team works. I had an experience that I never wanted to have happen last week during an auction. We were getting ready. We'd been preparing for a land and a farm equipment auction last Tuesday, and you couldn't be there, but Christian Miller came down to help be the guest auctioneer with me. And we had bought a brand new pickup. We put a brand spanking-new topper on it. We had a brand new office trailer. And as a matter of fact, I had to go out to Pier following the auction to speak at the South Dakota Bankers Association conference. And I told everybody, no dents, no dings. I says, Kevin will kill us if we put a scratch in anything. And
it's a nice setup. It's a great outfit, yeah.
And we were getting ready, and I'd had some electrical problems with this 2 weeks prior to up in Botno. I'd come up to Source and Botno to help you with it. We were having some problems, and we got 10 minutes into the auction, and I was auctioneering, and I hear a poof up inside the overshot of the topper, and we lost all the sound. And here we are with 200 people standing out there. You got to sell a very expensive piece of property and no sound system. And Jasmine, who does a phenomenal job, was working with Andy and the good people in Bowman on the IT side. And Kyle jumped up in the topper, and there was 4 or 5 of us that was just an absolute madhouse. And finally, Christian says, we're going to sell it a cappella, aren't we? And I says, that's exactly how we're going to sell it. Keep the auction going. We want to be on time. We have our buyers have expectations. We fell 10 minutes behind, and I thought, I'm going to get the telephone call. We're 10 minutes behind. And that was just one of many examples of why Pifer's does it better. It really is true. I can call somebody at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. I try not to call anybody before 6 in the morning, and that's the way Pifer's
Absolutely, yeah. You know, you never know what's, you're going to get a curveball, no, right?
Yeah,
so in that situation, you guys are throwing a curveball, but to your credit, you kept the team calm, right? You had brand new technology, brand new truck, brand new sound topper, and technology threw you a curveball, but you guys were calm in the storm, and that makes a big difference. So you guys handled it very, very well, and you accessed some of the staff that knew what should be done. We had it happen a couple years ago. We had a major sale up in northern North Dakota where the inverter blew out on us, and it wasn't just a fuse; the whole inverter went out, and it was a fairly new system, and that happens. And we ended up doing the balance of the sale. We did it with our sound system, but we had to have a couple extension cords all the way up in the building, all the way out to the truck to get that one done. And we made it happen, and we did that for the next 6 hours. I mean, because it started right early on when the sale started. But yeah, unfortunately, you need really good IT people around a lot of times too. And that's what's good about the younger generation. I'm not very good at the technology portion of it. I try and learn as much as I possibly can, but the younger generation seems to adapt to that pretty well. You have a good handle on it. Andy Murnack does, and our entire team. But I think everybody in that situation, and I was kept abreast of it as it was unfolding. That everybody was calm, and you have provided the leadership there to keep everybody calm and focused on the results. And then and you and Christian Miller, one of our auctioneers, who's one of the best young auctioneers in America by far. He's a rock star. You guys just took control and made it happen. And the results were phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kevin, 20 years ago, I moved into the upper end of the Red River Valley, not far from the Canadian line, and I remember seeing you for the first time walk into a gentleman's office, and it was a closed-door meeting, and you came back out and slipped out the front door. And I want to talk about your humble beginnings. When I had visited with you and Andy and Erica about coming to work at Pifer's, I was intrigued with your story as how Pifer's started. And what really cemented it for me was here's Kevin Pifer. He's risking everything to get into the auction business well over 20 years, almost 25 years ago. And you'd grab a thermos full of chicken noodle soup and go to work. And sometimes you slept in your pickup and showered at the truck stop. And
Exactly.
I don't want to tell your story. I want you to tell the story.
No, it's like, people look at it now and say, well, you guys got it made and it's easy, right? Well, it's never easy, right? In our organization, and you're the same way, we wake up unemployed every day because we have to go get a new client today or multiple clients today. So we do wake up unemployed every day. But I think early on, if we didn't believe in ourselves, if we didn't have the focus and believe in what we wanted to do, because we did have a dream, and it may not have been the exact same dream where we are today, but it's probably even better, quite frankly. But we never really gave up on that. Yeah, did we have setbacks? Some days it was one step forward and two steps back. Some days, fortunately, it was 3 steps forward and only 1 step backwards. But, I think the whole key there is, and again, if you're in it just for the money, you probably shouldn't be in it. If you're in it for the human aspect of it and for something you really believe in, that you can be really good at it, if you know this is what I was born to do, if you feel like this is what I really want to do with my life, this is the journey I want to take, rather than, geez, I just want to go out and make a bunch of money. If that's what you're in it for, you will eventually fail. You may not fail right away, but you will fail. If you love it and you're passionate about it and you believe in yourself and then those around you, I think you can have just unlimited success. And I think that's why our company is so successful. We have a number of very unselfish people in our company that are driven by motives other than money. And I think once people start to monetize their life and their journey, that's when things start to go awry. And that's when people become probably less, well, they're not as good as they should be. They're not as passionate about it. But in our business, I don't think of anybody in our company that isn't really passionate about it. I see it in you every single day. You and your staff. You're a good leader, and the example you set's amazing down in Sioux Falls. Everybody in Sioux Falls should be doing business. Everybody in South Dakota should be doing business with Pifer's, with you and your team down there, and in Iowa and Nebraska. Because nobody does it better than Chris Bear and his team, right? Nobody does it better. You guys are doing it. You're getting it done, so that's important.
There's one thing I will agree with you. I have a phenomenal team. I'm just along for the ride.
They're a reflection of you, and really, if I would, and again, obviously I'm biased, but if I was selling something, no matter what it was, land or equipment in South Dakota, I'd call Pifer's today. I would. That's the team to call. And we're a very results-driven team, very much results-driven. If we don't perform, we're more upset than our clients are. We have to perform, and we let ourselves down, we let our clients down, and we don't want to be in that position.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and I agree with you, Kevin. But this is the legacy of agriculture with Chris Bear. Pifer Auction Realty and Land Management is our sponsor for this show, and we appreciate the great people at Pifer's and the outstanding job that they do. Go to our website at pifers.com. That's PIFERS.com, or call us 605-836-2277. Say it, Kevin.
Nobody does it better than the team at Pifer's.
Thank you. Good Saturday morning, folks. We're back with the legacy of agriculture. I am Chris Bear, your host, and Kevin Pifer is my guest here, and we're moving into our third segment. We had a couple of great segments talking about the auction industry. I want to dig just a little bit deeper into, Kevin, about the history of Pifer's. Tell me about you and your brother Pete when you first started Pifer's. Tell me that story.
Yeah, well, my brother Pete was a mortgage banker for part of his career for 20 years, and he was working for a mortgage banking firm that he owned part of in Chicago and Denver, and he flew to Fargo one night and spent a couple of days with my wife and I, and he wanted to go out for dinner one night, and I asked, well, let me talk to Kelly, and he said, no, I just want to go out for dinner with you. That's you and I go out for dinner. And I didn't know it was going to be an interview with my older brother, who just happened to be the best man at my wedding. So, I mean, we'd not only been brothers, but best friends for a lifetime, which is pretty rare and pretty awesome, I think. So we have, we grew up together, playing sports together, playing ping pong in the basement farmhouse together, and when we didn't have a sporting activity to do or whatever, but never dated the same women though, so that's probably a good thing.
That's probably a really good thing.
But no, we were always really good friends and very close, and did a lot of things in our lifetime together. And over dinner we went to an Italian restaurant, ordered a good meal, and we both had an affinity for good red wines. We had a bottle of wine. He asked me during dinner, he said, if there's anything you ever wanted to do, what is it? And I was working for a bank at the time too. And I said, I'd like to get into the auction business. And he said, well, if I can help make that happen, he said, would you be willing to do it? 2 days later, I resigned from my job, and off
2 days later?
2 days later, off and away we went. We stayed up that night till about 2-3 in the morning, and the next day we couldn't talk about it enough. We went to see a friend of ours who worked for Wells Fargo Bank at the time, and he's with another bank now, but gave us a line of credit to get the company started, and off and away we went without a client. It's just Pete and I, right? We didn't have one client. And I think that first year we started in December of 2000, and then that first full year after that, we did $800,000 in sales, not in commission, but in sales. And I think the average auctioneer in North Dakota at the time was doing probably $4 or $5 million or whatever. Not the average, but maybe the average was like $3 million or whatever. And so 23 years later, last year we did $300 million in sales. So we went from 800,000 to $300 million in sales. But I mean, there was we didn't start out doing a lot of land auctions. We didn't, Chris. We didn't do a lot of equipment auctions. We did a lot of estate auctions, household auctions. I called myself a dumpster diver. I was going around in dumpsters behind grocery stores trying to find flat boxes to put knickknacks in or whatever so we could sell them. And looking around the corner, see if any of my friends see me diving in a dumpster or whatever. And,
it's kind of like looking for pallets when you're putting an auction together, right?
And I tell you, the first couple of years was kind of amazing. But, I think of it is, and it was tough. We were begging and trying to get any auction we could. And we took on every sale we possibly could take on. And we did a lot of estate auctions, household auctions, did whatever we could. But we also had a nice network of people that we knew that were in the banking business, attorneys, estate planners, those type of people. And every once in a while, somebody would take a leap of faith and go with us. And it really was a leap of faith because we were rookies in the business. But we had people that believed in us and trusted in us. And, again, not all was rosy at that time, but it was a struggle. The first 4 or 5 years really were a struggle. Financially, it seemed like we were just, barely keeping our head above water. But I don't ever remember one day ever looking for another opportunity in life or another job or another position somewhere. I never once did. I never thought of it. And in my previous 20 years of my life working for somebody, every 2 or 3 years, kind of looking around thinking, well, maybe I should try something different. I never did, even during the tough times, because I knew it was going to work. I just didn't know when we would hit our stride. And you never really know in this business. You've been in it long enough. You've been in it most of your life. The auction business can be very challenging because it's very, very competitive. People always want to go with the popular name at the time or whatever it might be. But if you believe in yourself, again, it just kind of really gets back to, that passion and believing in it. And I knew, looking at our competition, I knew we could do it better. I knew we could do it better than anybody. I knew we could. And it was just a matter of us staying with it, being in the game long enough, and convincing people that we were the best team out there. I knew we could do it, but it just had to take time. And it takes a lot of patience, as you well know.
It's the crockpot effect.
Yes, oh, exactly. Right? Yeah.
I love to call that the crockpot effect, as we've been the new guy on the block down in Sioux Falls. I think it's a terrible mistake when I took that project on to think that we would float to the top as the biggest and the best and the fanciest. It's put all the ingredients in the crock pot. Make sure you got really good ingredients. Make sure that you've got your recipe right. Make sure that you've got everything right, and put it in there and put it on slow and just be patient with the process. Would you agree with that philosophy?
I would totally agree with that philosophy. And it's very difficult. And auctioneers by nature are not very patient people. You're not very patient. I'm not very patient. It's probably it's a quality I wish I had more of, and I wish I was a better listener. But again, I think you're exactly right. It takes time. But on the other hand, it's with that comes some things that you can't teach. You want to do business. You have the passion. You want to be sitting at the edge of your toe or at the edge of your chair. You want to be on the balls of your feet, not on the heels of your feet. You want to be leaning forward. And those are the things that nobody can teach in a classroom or in a seminar. And I think by nature, auctioneers are that way. You're that way. I'm that way. Andy is. Christian Miller is. I mean, we got people that are that way. I mean, they can't wait to get the next auction to perform for a client. Yeah. So I'd agree with that 100%.
It's fun to watch guys like Jim Sabe, because Jim is the type of guy that when you sit down and you have a conversation with him, he's very methodical in everything that he says. He doesn't get in a big hurry like I do, and he's one of those guys. It's the crock pot effect. It's the sitting there and simmering and boiling.
And for guys like Jim, it's interesting. Jim Sabe's been doing this for a long time. He's one of the first people that ever came to work with us, and to him it's more of a marathon than a sprint. Yeah. And he really is. He's I call him a corner post. He said, "You called me a fence post?" I said, "No, you're a corner post." "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, you're kind of the anchor. That's what you tie the wire and you connect it to all the other posts, and you're holding everything else together. I mean, you're the corner post in our organization." And he really, really is. I mean, he day in and day out, he's one of the most reliable people I've ever met in my lifetime. Not only in our company, but anywhere. When I call him, he's always on a job site. He always is. He's not in a bar or doing something he shouldn't be doing.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's Jim. Hey, folks, this is The Legacy of Agriculture with Chris Bear, my guest, Kevin Pifer. We're coming to the end of our third segment here. If you want a list of the good auctions that the people at Pifer's got coming, go to our website at pifers.com. That's PIFERS.com.
And nobody does it better.
Good morning, folks. This is Chris Bear with The Legacy of Agriculture, and my guest, Kevin Pifer, is here, the good folks at Pifer Auction Realty and Land Management. Not only is Kevin here as a guest, but Pifer's is our sponsor for this show, and we appreciate and again thank Kevin very much for it. Just would not be possible. There's so many moving parts that goes into one of these projects, and Kevin has given us that opportunity. Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Chris. Well, you guys do a great job. Otherwise, we wouldn't sponsor you. And we believe in what you're doing in Sioux Falls and for people in South Dakota and Iowa and Nebraska. You obviously are the go-to company in that area now. And if anybody's looking to buy or sell land or equipment in the greater Sioux Falls area, anywhere in South Dakota, Iowa, or Nebraska, they should call you and your team. And we need to get that phone number out there so people call the Pifer's team at the Worthing office just south of Sioux Falls. You guys are an incredible team with a huge amount of experience. And the results that you've been getting at your recent sales, just even recently as the last couple of weeks, I've even been impressed. I mean, I'm easy to please, but I'm hard to impress. But I've been really impressed with the results. Really have been.
Well, when we get up in the morning, we're not doing this for money, and we're not doing it for fame. We do it because we love it. And Jasmine Sepinen is our office manager, and she does a phenomenal job. And Kyle Waller is doing a great job as a representative on the machinery side. And we got a great young man, Josh Erickson, that's been with us. And unfortunately, Josh is 22, 23 years old, and I've never worked with a young man that was more dedicated than Josh.
He is amazing. I love that guy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Josh is going to go chase his dreams and move away, and so he's going to have a big pair of shoes to fill down there. But anyways, so Kevin, I want to ask you one question, and I don't want to come across as negative because it's not meant as a negative question. But when you started the auction business 23 years ago, did you ever think you weren't going to make it?
That's a good question, and I think it's a very fair question. I can remember when I went to auction school in the mid-1980s, I never told anybody I was going to auction school. And there's a reason I didn't. I didn't tell my parents. When I went to auction school, I was probably 24 or 5 years old. I never told any of my closest friends or anybody in my family, including my parents. And the reason I didn't is I didn't want anybody to talk me out of it. That's why.
Really?
I did not. I didn't want, because as you well know, there's a lot of people that want to talk you out of your dream, no matter what it is in your lifetime. A lot of people have a tendency to be negative by nature, not positive by nature, and they want to see you succeed, but they don't want you to be more successful than they are. And not that my parents didn't want that, but I can just hear some people. If I'd have told them I was going to auction school, why would you want to go to auction school when there's already 600 auctioneers in North Dakota? That's a lot of auctioneers in North Dakota.
Absolutely.
Why would you ever want to do that? And I just didn't want anybody to talk me out of it. And so I went to auction school, and I didn't tell anybody until I graduated from auction school that I had gone to auction school. So the same thing is true with the company. Was there ever a day that I felt like quitting? I was like, no, but then I realized how tough a business was. I never ever thought about quitting, ever. I didn't. Not one single moment, one single day. But I was reminded time and time again how life can humble you, how difficult things can be when it looks so easy for some people. But on the other hand, you have to pay your dues. You have to pay your dues. And you have to make a lot of sacrifices in life. And fortunately or unfortunately, you aren't the only one making them. Your family is too, and your friends are, and people in your company are too. So again, until you hit that full stride, it becomes a challenge in life. But when I look back at our team back in those days. We had some incredible times together. We really did. I remember our quarterly sales meetings, our annual meetings, and awards, banquets, and some of the deals that we had. I look back at those, and those are some of the best of times. Everybody had ideas. Everybody was pitching in, trying to make this company better, and how could we get more market share? And, when you get to be a company our size, I think you lose a little bit of that. And that's what I miss. I miss a lot of that because, in the early days, it was really, really tough. But it really shaped who we are. I mean, it really made us, I think it made a lot of us really humble in this company and in this business. It made a lot of us grateful for where we are because we've been through it. I look at a lot of younger auctioneers starting out today and I go, I want to almost call them up and say, don't quit. I know they're going to be a competitor of mine. Don't give up. Your day will come, but you got to stay with it too.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're willing to sacrifice. Some are willing to sacrifice more than others. So again, it depends on what you want. Some are in it just part-time. Yeah. But this is a full-time deal for us. Yeah. We do this on a full-time basis. You do it on a full-time basis. And I think if anybody's going to hire an auctioneer or a real estate company, you want to hire somebody that's fully engaged in this business every single minute of every single day.
That's right.
You really do, because it's that important. Like you say, it's a lot of people are building, like a radio station, legacy. A lot of people are building a legacy, and it takes generations to build it. In many cases, it doesn't take just one generation, but multiple generations to build a farm or a business.
That's exactly right. When I think you said some things that are very key. Everybody is going to fail. Everybody. And when you go out, take the game of football, for example, and we all watch football. Do you know that practicing every day when you go out and practice, they call that controlled failure? That you go out, you run a play, somebody fails. So you go back, you run the play again, somebody fails. You go back and run the play, and that play doesn't work. But at the end, you hope that you can combine enough wins, that you cross that goal enough times that you become the winner. And if anybody who's getting into business thinks that they're going to get it right from the beginning, don't do it, because that's not what's going to happen. You're going to make mistakes and make mistakes and make mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy too. And and again, as long as we're on football analogies, I like to talk about Vince Lombardi a lot because I think he had a lot of good analogies. But one of his famous sayings week in and week out was, we don't do some of the things right some of the time. We strive to do all of the things right all of the time. Yeah. Now, the word strive is really important. We strive to do it because there's not one person on the planet that can do all of the things right all of the time. We can't, because we do have failures. We maybe, there's another saying, you shoot for the moon and you end up in the sun or whatever it might be, or shoot for the moon and you end up in the stars, whatever it might be. But again, I like that analogy that, we're not in it just to do some of the things right some of the time. We really, truly are every day in our office, whether it's somebody in marketing or accounting or in sales or equipment setup or whatever it is, we strive every day to do all of the things right all of the time. And I think if you have that mentality and that focus every day, this is, our 180th sale of the year. We don't maybe need to do this particular part for the sale. Yes, we do. Whether we're selling 80 acres for a widow or 5,000 acres for an investment firm, we want to do it right. We want to do it the exact same way for the person who has the 80 acres versus the 5,000 acres. They deserve it. It means as much, if not more, to that person than the 5,000 acres means to the person with the 80 acres. Yep. So again, from that perspective, it's always about putting your best foot forward and not thinking about you and the amount of work it takes you to do it. You have to always be focused on what is the end result going to be for my client. Yep. Am I going to be able to put my head down on the pillow at night and say, you know what? I did the very best I could for that person today.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Well, unfortunately, Kevin, we're coming to the end of our segment. Make me a promise that you'll come back again.
I'll be back. And just remember, at the end of the day, you got to put your signature on your day's work. Do the best you can every day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kevin Pifer, for being on with us. This is Chris Bear with the Legacy of Agriculture. Our sponsor, Pifer Auction and Realty. Say it, Kevin.
Nobody does it better.
I'm gonna been on here now. Who bid $500,000 bid?
We hope you've enjoyed today's edition of The Legacy of Agriculture with Chris Bear, sponsored by Pifer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management. Call Pifer's at 605-836-2277.